Imagine stepping into your backyard tomorrow morning and it doesn't look like a normal yard anymore. The paths are framed with soft moss and old stones, like a tiny lane beside a European cottage. Driftwood curves gently around flower beds, tin cans suddenly look like warm terracotta, and somewhere under the soil, there are hidden bottles quietly holding everything in place. Now imagine realizing that every single border you see was built from things you almost threw away. No landscaper, no $1,000 budget, just patience, creativity, and the courage to see magic where others only see trash. Welcome back to Backyard Fortune, the little corner of YouTube where we turn everyday leftovers into gardens that feel like real-life storybooks. If you love ideas that look expensive but start from trash, old bricks, bottles, scrap wood, forgotten metal, you're in exactly the right place. In today's video, we're exploring 10 garden border ideas that can completely change the way your backyard feels, even if your space is tiny and your budget is close to zero. If you enjoy this kind of upcycled garden inspiration, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episodes in this series, and please share this video to your WhatsApp groups and Facebook. Help this idea reach more garden lovers around the world. For everyone who watches, shares, and supports this small family channel, I sincerely wish you a long life, good health, and a backyard that keeps getting greener every year. One, stone and moss storybook border. There is a quiet kind of beauty in stones that have lived another life. Imagine walking along a narrow garden path where every step feels like entering a page from an old European storybook. The border beside you isn't built from polished, expensive stone, but from reclaimed rubble, each piece shaped by time, softened by weather, and held gently by moss. Tiny sprigs of thyme spill into the gaps, lavender leans over with a calming fragrance, and compact daisies brighten the edges like soft lanterns of color. There is something deeply human about using old materials this way. It reminds us that nothing truly ends, it only transforms. Stones that once carried the weight of walls now cradle young roots. Moss becomes a bridge between past and present, stitching everything together with green threads the way memory stitches moments across a lifetime. The border doesn't demand attention. It simply exists, calm and grounded, like a companion who has always been there. And as the gravel path curves onward, you sense the subtle harmony between chaos and order, uneven stones arranged just right, wild plants leaning with gentle purpose. A small reminder that beauty is often born from imperfection. Let's move to the next idea and see how another forgotten material can shape a garden's quiet magic. Two, driftwood and wildflower curve border. There is a gentle poetry in wood that has wandered. Driftwood carries the memory of rivers, storms, and shorelines, and when brought into a garden, it feels like nature returning home. Picture a quiet corner of your yard where wildflowers sway in soft summer breezes, and beside them, a curved border made from weathered wood pieces interlocked like old friends leaning on one another. The line they create isn't rigid, it bends with the land, following its natural rhythm the way a melody follows breath. Each piece of driftwood tells its own quiet story. The cracked textures, the pale sun-bleached tones, the twisted shapes carved by wind and water, all of it adds a layer of soul that new materials can never replicate. When paired with wildflowers in pinks, yellows, and whites, the scene feels untouched by time, like a forgotten footpath behind a countryside cottage. Ornamental grasses whisper at the edges, and the small stepping stones nearby invite slow, unhurried walks. This border doesn't seek perfection. It celebrates irregularity, softness, and the kind of beauty that grows when we let nature lead. It's a reminder that even materials worn by the world still have a role to play, still have warmth to offer. And as we move to the next idea, the garden reminds us again, nothing is wasted when seen with a creative eye. Three, tin can terracotta edge. There is something quietly magical about objects that return to life in unexpected ways. Imagine standing beside a garden bed where the border doesn't come from a store, but from tin cans that once held soup, beans, or tomatoes, now reborn with warm terracotta paint and arranged in a perfect, cheerful row. Some cans carry tiny chips, hints of silver beneath the orange tones, like scars that speak of past usefulness and new beginnings. As marigolds bloom behind them and herbs fill the air with their gentle fragrance, the cans become more than recycled metal. They become storytellers. Each one cradles soil, roots, and hope, proving that beauty doesn't need to be expensive, and that even the simplest objects can hold great tenderness when placed with care. Leafy greens rustle softly above them, catching sunlight the way pages catch words. This border feels accessible and warm, the kind of idea that makes a small backyard feel personal, lived in, and quietly joyful. In a world that often rushes forward, these humble cans remind us to pause and notice the charm in everyday materials, charm that grows when imagination meets intention. And as we move on to the next idea, the garden whispers again. Transformation begins with seeing value where others see waste. Four, reclaimed brick herb ribbon. Some borders speak softly, but with a depth that lingers. Imagine a line of old bricks, each one weathered, uneven, touched by years, leaning together in a gentle ribbon that guides your eye along the garden's edge. Their warm red tones glow softly under the sun, while herbs rise from the spaces between them, filling the air with scents of thyme, oregano, and chamomile. It feels like walking beside a miniature hillside farm in a quiet European village. These bricks, once part of a wall or walkway, now stand angled like humble guardians, holding soil while nourishing new life. Their imperfections, notches, chips, faded surfaces, tell the truth of time. And yet, instead of being discarded, they become the foundation for something fragrant and living. Herbs spill outward, brushing gently against the gravel path, as if greeting anyone who walks by. There is generosity in borders like this. They offer beauty, yes, but also usefulness. Leaves for tea, seasoning for meals, a soothing aroma that drifts through the garden at dusk. This design feels personal and grounded, a reminder that the garden grows best when we honor both memory and renewal. And as we continue forward, the next idea waits. Another way to let ordinary materials shape extraordinary corners of the yard. Five, hidden bottle base border. Some of the most beautiful things in a garden are the ones you never notice at first. Imagine a border so clean and natural that it looks as though the plants shape themselves. A soft edge where mulch meets greenery, held quietly in place by a hidden structure beneath the soil. Beneath that calm surface, recycled bottle bases stand shoulder to shoulder, forming a silent foundation that keeps everything tidy and balanced. Only the faintest curve of glass peaks above the earth, catching morning light like droplets frozen in time. Creeping ground covers spill over them, softening the line and blending the man-made with the natural. Small perennials bloom just above, their petals opening gently as if unaware they are rooted in a design built from objects once considered worthless. There is a quiet intelligence in this border. It doesn't flaunt itself, it holds its purpose with humility. The bottles, once empty and discarded, now serve the garden with strength and clarity, proving again that sustainability often hides in subtle choices. This idea invites us to see the potential beneath every surface, to trust that even the unseen parts of our gardens can carry meaning. And now, as we move to the next idea, the path continues forward, shaped by creativity, intention, and the quiet joy of turning waste into wonder. Six, faux cotton scrap metal edge. Some borders whisper of modern strength while still honoring the earth. Picture a garden where tall grasses sway like brushstrokes against the air, and in front of them, a clean line of metal anchors the scene, not true Corten steel, but humble scraps reborn with warm rust-colored paint. The tones shift softly from burnt orange to deep clay, catching sunlight the way old iron gates do in quiet European towns. The metal pieces stand firm, straight, intentional. Their edges, once sharp or neglected, now feel purposeful, softened by weather and imagination. Around them, gravel lies in a simple, graceful strip, grounding the plants in a rhythm of stone and steel. Structured shrubs rise behind the border, adding balance, contrast, and a sense of quiet confidence. There is something refreshing in the honesty of this design. It doesn't pretend to be perfect. Instead, it celebrates transformation. What once looked like discardable metal now becomes a feature that shapes the entire garden's mood, crisp, elegant, and timeless. This border teaches us that modern beauty doesn't require luxury. Sometimes it begins with a forgotten piece of scrap waiting for another chance. And as we continue on to the next idea, the garden shifts again, from steel and structure toward something softer, reminding us that every edge tells its own story. Seven, gravel path with scrap wood markers. There is a calm simplicity in a pathway that invites you to slow down. Imagine walking along a narrow trail of pale gravel, each gentle crunch beneath your feet echoing the rhythm of a quiet afternoon. On both sides, perennials bloom in soft waves, brushing lightly against your legs as you pass. And there, marking the edge with humble steadiness, stand short pieces of reclaimed wood, simple scraps, but arranged with intention, rising like small guardians beside the path. Their worn textures tell stories of past uses, once part of pallets, fences, or forgotten boards. Now, they guide the eye forward, creating a subtle pattern that feels both rustic and comforting. The wood's natural grain blends beautifully with the soft tones of the gravel, forming a border that doesn't overpower the garden, but gently shapes it. Ahead, a modest bench waits at the path's end, offering a pause before returning to the world outside. The whole scene feels like a lived-in corner of an old cottage garden, unforced, organic, and full of charm born from simple choices. This border reminds us that beauty often grows from the ordinary. A few scraps of wood, a handful of gravel, and plants that happily fill the spaces between. And as we continue, the garden leads us onward to another quiet transformation. Eight, mini herb and berry living hedge border. Some garden borders nourish the eyes, and others nourish the heart, but this one nourishes everything at once. Imagine a low hedge made not of boxwood or privet, but of herbs and tiny berry plants planted shoulder to shoulder, forming a soft green ribbon along the edge of a garden bed. Rosemary stands tall and fragrant, thyme spills gently over the soil like a whisper, and strawberries peek out with shy red jewels hidden beneath their leaves. This living border grows with a generosity that feels almost human. It offers seasoning for meals, fruit for quiet moments, and fragrance that lingers in the breeze long after you've walked away. Behind it sits a simple vegetable bed and a modest raised planter, grounding the scene in everyday life. Yet the whole corner feels like a miniature European potager tucked behind an old countryside cottage. What makes this border special isn't its neatness or its symmetry, but its warmth. Every plant is both useful and beautiful, forming a boundary that feels alive, humble, and full of purpose. It reminds us that gardens are not just spaces, but relationships, between soil and roots, between care and reward, between today and the meals we will enjoy tomorrow. And so we move forward toward the next idea, carrying with us the soft scent of herbs and the sweetness of small, unexpected berries. Nine, recycled plastic ribbon edge. Some borders don't shout for attention, they whisper. Imagine a quiet garden corner where a thin ribbon of earthy-toned plastic curves gently through the soil, guiding the plants the way a soft breeze guides fallen leaves. It doesn't try to mimic stone or wood, it simply forms a clean, graceful line that holds the garden together with modest confidence. Ground covers spill lightly over its edge, softening the transition between lawn and soil. Small flowers bloom nearby, their colors reflected faintly on the smooth surface of the plastic, like watercolor strokes on a page. The border feels simple, but never plain, an example of how clarity and calm can grow from the humblest materials. The plastic strip itself may have begun life as something forgotten, an old container, a broken bin, a leftover panel. But reshaped and curved, it becomes part of the garden's rhythm. Its subtle wave echoes the flow of plants around it, creating a border that feels both practical and poetic. There's beauty in its restraint, in the way it frames the garden without trying to own it. This design reminds us that upcycling doesn't always need to be dramatic. Sometimes the most meaningful transformations are quiet ones, the kind that blend seamlessly into everyday life. And now, as we head toward the final idea, the garden invites us to rediscover charm in the details. Ten, thrift iron and wire cottage fence edge. Some borders feel like poetry before a single word is spoken. Imagine stepping into a small garden where blossoms rise in gentle abundance, and in front of them stands a low fence made from iron and wire, not new, not polished, but full of history. You can almost imagine where each piece once lived, a balcony railing, a discarded gate, maybe even an old bed frame found in a forgotten corner of a thrift shop. Now, these reclaimed curves and lines form delicate arches that frame the flowers like a miniature vintage park. Reds, pinks, yellows, and purples gather behind the metalwork, pressing softly against the fence as if eager to spill forward. The contrast is timeless: dark iron, bright petals, and the soft green breath of foliage weaving between them. There is something tender in the way the fence holds the blooms, not confining them, but giving them a stage to shine. This border speaks of nostalgia, of quiet mornings, of gardens tended with care rather than perfection. It reminds us that beauty often grows from pieces the world no longer needs, shaped by hands that see potential where others see rust. And as you follow the curved line of the fence, you sense the gentle harmony between structure and wildness, order and bloom. And with this final idea, the garden listicle completes its circle, each border a small reminder that transformation begins with a second chance. So, which border idea stole your heart today? The mossy stones, the driftwood curves, the secret bottles, or something else entirely? Tell me in the comments which one you'd actually try in your own space, and let me know which country you're watching from. I love seeing how this little garden family is quietly spreading across the world. If this video gave you even one new idea, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with a friend or a gardening group on WhatsApp or Facebook. Your support keeps this small channel alive and helps us keep dreaming up new ways to turn trash into beauty. Until the next video, may your days be peaceful, your plants grow strong, and your backyard always feel a little bit more like home.